What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are completing the Panoptix install. So Garmin Panoptix going on the Hobie Pro Angler 360. This is part 3 of the series on my boat. If you want to see the full length install, all in one video, you can watch Paul's video. If you're looking for just the little parts, installing yak power, getting a transducer that doesn't fit your boat on the bottom of your boat, so a little custom fitting. And then today we're going to be installing the head unit. So all the wiring will get done. We're going to get an H-rail custom cut and placed at the front of the boat across the beam here so that I have center front view console. It's going to be awesome. As always, if you guys are liking the content, be sure to subscribe, smash a like, ring that notification bell, and then come back Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern when we go live. Love to see you there and talk to you in chat. Let's install this thing, man. I'm sick of it. This is like 4-day install so far because I get like an hour at a time to work on this thing, so it takes forever. And I have to keep running to the dang hardware store. Problem with custom fitting stuff, you know? All right, guys, so the first thing we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna take our previously mounted Panoptix unit and yak power unit, and we're gonna plug everything in. So I wanna run the wires through the boat so that all that we need to really do for the end of this video is cut this thing to size. By the way, we bought the wrong size for this because the measurements that Hobie gives you, unfortunately, is the measurement of this minus this piece, which if you see here, actually inserts about 2¼ inches. If they don't factor that in, it was confusing. At any rate, if you have a beam about the width that I'm dealing with, which is a 30, let's say you're like a 32 to 36 inch wide beam on a kayak, you're gonna go with the 21 inch. If you're not, or you have a different skinnier beam, unfortunately these Hobie H-rails only come in a 9, 21, and I think this is a 29. So you're gonna have to go with the 21 or the 29 and cut it to size. The other thing you'll notice is that this is actually not straight, it's bent. And that's because they're supposed to go down the length of the kayak, and you can see on that one, it kind of bows out, right? So you're gonna wanna keep that bow even. Maybe you don't, maybe that's not even important. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep it even. So I took off an equal distance on both sides, and we're gonna cut that with an angle grinder, make it work. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be smooth. It's gonna insert into here anyways, so you're not even gonna see it if it's kind of a rough edge, right? And then we're gonna install that on these side plates that you see here, as far forward as we can, so it's not in the way of our pedaling, and it's gonna sit about yay high. And then we'll have our unit, this piece right here, which if you're getting a Garmin, this is the 106SV display, and it comes with a whole lot of plugs there. So what I need to do right now is wire all these, have the wires coming through that hole we previously cut in part 2, and install this. Then we're gonna clip 2 of these onto the H-rail. So this is just the Hobie H-rail mounting plate. And with that, this will sit on top of it all nice and pretty, just like that. Pretty neat. So I can take the whole unit off just by unclipping these 2 at the same time. Not a big deal. Pretty nice if you want to keep expensive electronics super safe. So let's say I'm going on a trip, this has to stay outside. Guess who's coming in the hotel with me? This guy is. All right, so we're gonna be using these 3 ports on the Panoptix. The first one is the power. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug that baby in. So with this one, we've got the exposed ends here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the Yak Power Complete System provided plugs, which are already ready to rig, and we're just gonna splice these babies right here. Yak Power also includes these with a shrink kit as well. And because all of this is already exposed, you don't need to strip this wire at all. So really all you need is something to crimp it with, for which I have a basic crimper right here. So we're just gonna take our little wire splitter kit here, a little wire connector rather, thread that baby in, twist it a little bit to lock it in. Red to red, ta-da. And then once that's in there just like that, we're just gonna go back and now crimp the ends around the wire. From there, we just wanna make sure it's holding tight. Looks good to me. Probably could crimp it one more time on this side. Oh, shoot. The heat shrink though. Everybody's gotta mess up somewhere. Now what I would recommend with this is that you slide on your heat shrink first. Totally forgot, I'll do it on the next one. It's fine. I'm gonna wrap this whole thing in electrical tape, and it's gonna be sitting up off the bottom, so I'm not too worried about it. Both wires are super secure there. I'm just gonna run it with some electrical tape. So just start below You work your way up. I've done a ton of wiring this way on my kayaks in the past. Have never once had an issue, so, you know, trust the process. Heat shrink is obviously nicer, so if you can remember the steps and maybe read the instructions, you should probably do that. Okay, so got our fuse. We've got our Panoptix power for that unit, and we just plug this in to our choice of relays from the main Yak Power kit. So I'm going to go ahead and go with number 2, and then number 1 will be the main display. We also have our main power line to plug in here for the Yak Power. So we're going to do that. We'll zip tie everything, clean it up, make sure it's nice and neat, and everything's off the bottom of the boat. You can definitely get water in this boat. It's never going to sink, really. I'm not worried about that, but I just don't want things sitting in water, you know? Next up, we got our network cables. So again, this is what allows us to go live, that live view going with what the fishies are doing. This is actually a 2-piece cable. So here's one part, which plugs in right here where it says network. Then this part goes to this much shorter setup. So this one goes to the unit. So then we need our power for the unit. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this, and we're going to, again, wire that Yak Power system plug onto here. And this will go into the back of our head unit. Good and secure on both of those. And now I'm gonna heat up the heat shrink. Of course, if you have a heat gun, I would definitely recommend that. There we go. Definitely looks a little prettier. Still gonna tape it. That's actually all the wiring stuff we really need to do. Everything else is just plugging in. Solid as heck. So now this, being our main head unit, is gonna be our number 1. Here's where the benefit to having the Yak Power really comes into play, is that running your Panoptix networking unit, so the sidearm that you guys are gonna see, the separate transducer, is gonna murder your battery all day. So if you're in a spot where like, you know where the fish are, you're catching them, you're not really looking anymore, you can turn it off. If you wanna just goof around, if you just wanna go paddle spot to spot, you can turn it off. And it's really easy with those buttons we installed. I just press number 2, and it's gonna kill the Panoptix unit, and then I just roll on. And then when I want it back on, press number 2 again, and we're back up and running. Also, you may have seen these extra couple of wires. They're actually for something totally different. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to throw 1 strip of tape around them so they sit up a little bit higher and they're not just swinging around. That's everything plugged in. So now we just need to re-plug in our buttons and then run all the wires through the front of the boat. Now comes my literal nightmare, shoving this thing in with all these cables. Oh gosh. And you can already see the problem. So we're gonna work on this, eh? Okay, so in the spirit of keeping this super clean, I went ahead and zip tied this all together. It's gonna sit off to the side here, and I'll just have the Yak Power cables kind of come through it. They will sit just in front of the heat sink from the Garmin. I don't think that's gonna cause any issues. And if it does, we'll find out later. If I smell burning on the water, we'll be concerned. I think we'll be fine. Another alternative is that once I zip tie this to the mast, I could pull this all up and then zip tie it to the zip tie, which I'll probably end up doing. Next thing I'm gonna do is zip tie a coil for the transducer and just tuck it under there. Oh, wire management is fun. So we got a bundle for the transducer. Just zip tie it so it don't go nowhere. That'll just stay behind here. Okay, now we need the zip tie around the mast. Looks like everything is in place here. So that's ready. Now, just gotta take our power cable. We're gonna run it up and out here. So there's my 3 main cables I need. Okay, we'll zip tie this in place. So that is stowed up. I'll finish organizing this later once I put the cargo bin in and get an idea. I can always re-zip tie that, not a big deal. Cables are out. So I'm gonna put that 3-way Hobie plug in here. All right, so wires coming up. Had to close the old garage door because we got a wind advisory. So with these, you gotta take your little rubber piece here, sits against the hull. Gotta thread all these guys through it. And we just gotta put these around each of the cables. Slide them onto the plastic piece. Make sure they're secured. It was a little bit more of a pain than I thought it was gonna be, but here's all the cables, which will then attach to the back of the Garmin. Network, power, bottom transducer. The network is what will allow us to access the sidearm that we're gonna add on. And that is the only other issue that we have is like how to thread that in here. And we're thinking we're gonna just run it down and go through one of these rod tubes here. So not too hard, it just means we have to drill a hole in a rod tube. So next step is this. This is the H rail. Now, I did find out, I think the 21 will fit if you guys wanna order one and not have to cut it. Again, I took the longest option that they have and I cut it. And it's gonna work, but I had to take off quite a bit. I probably cut off around 6 or 7 inches of this thing. So yeah, I think the 21 will work. But even here, like with 7 inches off of it, it's like barely where I want it to be. But we're gonna make it work. The other thing to keep in mind is that these plates come up on an angle. So what might be valuable here is potentially like a spacer of some sort. I'm not gonna use it for right now because it's plastic. Plastic's malleable. I think it'll be okay. If I see issues with it, I'll add a spacer later. So for right now, all we're gonna do is try to figure out how to place this, punch some holes, drop our bolts in, and then we can install everything up on top. Okay, so here's where the head unit's gonna go. We're just gonna take this piece off, and it actually has like this little thing here, so it's gonna snap on. We'll do that in a second. On the back, ferrites are installed, got all our cables in, good there, so it runs down to pretty clean, if I do say so myself. Little 3-way in-hull plug. That goes out behind here. We've got this panel here, zip tied, so that is super sturdy, not moving at all. Got our yak power, got our Garmin. I'm gonna clean up these cables. You guys will see the finished product in a little bit. So it's all gonna be zip tied up and hanging up a little bit higher and back so I can drop in the cargo bin here. Okay, so snapped it in. We're gonna power it up. Let's see what happens. We're gonna click our power button here. Okay, we're gonna turn on channels 1 and 2. Oh, we did it. I mean, of course we do. I knew it was gonna happen. Ooh, baby, I love the way every day. Okay, so I did notice something that's probably gonna cause me an issue. So hang on, let's get upset real quick. I'm gonna put the drive in here and see if it hits my unit. Might have a slight problem. This is what I was most worried about. With the drive in, are my pedals, my pedals are gonna hit the unit. Might be a slight issue. Okay, well, we're mostly there. Now I gotta just adjust a few things. Okay, so check it out. We've got wiring coming through here. We come up to these mounting plates. You have to mount these backwards because they stick out so far. So if that stuck out this way, what would happen is these pedals would just hit it, right? So what you're hearing right now is the fins slapping the underside of my boat. That's what that sound is. But with it rigged this way, as I'm pedaling, I should not end up hitting this with my feet. Obviously, we got to get this out on the water and confirm that, but this is about the furthest forward it could go and the furthest back it can go. That's what I mean by sweet spot. So I've got the H-rail mounted here, kind of went off of like this screw. So I watched Christine Fisher's video. She had hers lined up right here. The problem I ran into was these stinking ferrite beads on the back wouldn't allow me to open the cargo. So I had to move it forward just a smidge so I could actually access the front cargo space. But at this point, it would seem that we're all set. But now I have to clean all of this out. So I'm gonna empty the boat. I'm also going to finish cleaning up the wiring in here so it's not laying on the bottom, and it's out of the way so I can drop in my cargo bin, which is way back there. That's gotta go in here. Here we go. It's this. Right, yeah. It's that. There's nothing I can do about that. Okay. Ha! Okay, so we can fit the bin in here. You know, the Panoptix networking unit does stick out a little bit, so it is gonna cause some space issues. It is what it is. I think we're okay because this lid does at least close now, which is what we want. There we go. It's kind of a snug fit, which isn't a bad thing because it does have a watertight seal. So the more snug this fits over that, honestly, the better. And all water should just come down these channels if we have any issue there. There's actually one more critical component here that we're gonna throw in the mix, the Fishing Specialties Panoptix Arm. So this is actually gonna hang over the side of the boat here, and I'm gonna have this handle where I can turn my forward-facing sonar in case I don't just want it facing forward. So what we did is we took like your Yak Attack or a Ram ball arm, like the little tiny one, with a 1-inch ball. We mounted just the base plate version of that to the bottom of this. You got your Panoptix transducer cable coming down through this hollow tube, comes out this channel guide right there. And then you mount this sucker up right there, and you put your arm attachment on. So for example, if I don't want it just flush flat like this, where it's just gonna give me like that forward, I can loosen it and we can angle it down. And now I can have a downward angle look, or completely loosen it and I can really angle it down, go straight down, whatever I wanna do. So lots of cool options there. I'm digging this setup a lot. Quite a bit of cable here, that's fine. All we're gonna do is take this and we're gonna run it up through one of these rod tubes on the inside. So I'm gonna go in here, drill a hole in that. Cable's gonna come up out the rail, tuck under here, go into that first rod tube, come out of the top of it, and then plug into our Garmin unit. So it comes with this little side plate here, just like this. And then it's got this little tab here that I can insert. Now it won't move at all, right? So this has to mount over here to this Hobie universal mount. Now all we gotta do, punch some holes in here, throw some bolts through there, you know, that's it. And then run this wire. And then we're actually done. Then I'm gonna power up the whole thing and see how it's looking. All right, and then we're gonna throw 2 screws in the back and we'll be super solid. All right, so there we go. Now, with that handle, I can push it if I wanna look out to the side. I can turn it back if I wanna look this way. I mean, it's forward-facing sonar, right? So wherever this thing is pointing, that's what we're gonna be looking at. So this thing's freaking huge. So I gotta go ahead and grab my Dremel tool and bore out a hole that big. Yes. All right, we're good. I'm gonna sand it. Just gonna take some high grit sandpaper. Good and smooth. Okay, so arm is installed for the Panoptix transducer. Ran that cable up here. It'll just hang tight. I might even zip tie it to this thing just to keep it there. Just coiled up the cable right there, no big deal. I gotta vacuum this out still. But all of the other cables up out of the way, I can still plug into these at a later time when I want to. So those are usable at another time, and there we go. So power is up. We've got our battery box back here. I didn't show you guys this yet. So strap the crate down, that's rock solid, not going anywhere. We still have access to this if we want to, and I never use it. Then we got our battery box right here, plugged in. I'm gonna go ahead and just use this bungee for now. It's not gonna go anywhere, so that's fine. So now, you can always upgrade that stuff later. Let's go power up 1 and 2 and power up our unit. Step 1 complete. I like this little sidearm bracket. I mean, it's a little wobbly, but super secure. It's only wobbly because of the flexibility of this plastic, I think. It's not going anywhere. And I mean, it's attached by cable. Okay, so let's set this baby up. All right, guys, there we go. That is it for the install on this Hobie Pro Angler 14. I actually have Paul's boat right over there, so he needs to get his butt over here and finish his so we can go heckin' fishing. I'm ready to go fishing, and I already tested everything out. Looks like it's working. Obviously, we got to get on the water and try that out. But yeah, I'm super happy with the build. Yes, I had to cut holes in the boat. Yes, it was scary. Here's a little souvenir piece, actually, from it. But it wasn't that bad at the end of the day. Like, I've done much more difficult installs. Like, actually, the wheels for this boat were a bit more difficult than this was to install. So there's that. And I'm really excited to test out all these cool things. We got the Fishing Specialties Arm. We're gonna see how that goes. Really happy with this mount. Shout out, thank you to Christine Fisher, That Bass Fishing Dude. I mean, these guys have rigs like this, Fishing with Gramps. I'm freaking stoked. I just need to go fish now. If you guys like the install, if this was helpful for you, or even if you're just living vicariously through me, totally get it. I do that through other people with bass boats all the time. But I appreciate you for watching anyways. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe, smash the like, ring the notification bell, and then come back Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern when we go live. It's a blast. Love to see you there and talk in chat. See you next time.